Alright, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about troubleshooting the app host. In particular, I'm going to be going over how to troubleshoot image registry issues that you might encounter on the app host. So I'm going to be showing you how to get some information out of the SOAR dashboard itself. We'll log into the actual app host and check out how to be a Kubernetes administrator and get information from K3s. We'll use third-party tools, specifically from Red Hat, that I like to use to move images around. It's very useful. We'll remediate image registry configurations on the actual app host, and we'll talk a little bit about the anatomy of the app and app host itself, on how these configurations all work together. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to my apps, and I have a new app here called Lab App 1. And no, it's not fancy, and I didn't put my name or anything like that in here. I just built this app to have something purposefully be broken. So we'll open this up, and it's waiting to deploy to an app host right now, and I have one app host hooked up to this system, so we'll go ahead and deploy this to app host 1. And while this is deploying, we can go ahead and log into the actual app host itself. So let me just go ahead and drag this terminal screen over here. And just to show you how to log into the app host in a way that you can get to what you want to get to with Kubernetes, we SSH in as the app admin account at the app host IP address. This is just a regular user on the actual machine. So we want to sudo up and become the root user. And this will give us easier access to the Kubernetes environment. And now as the root user here, you can see by this hash symbol that we are indeed the root user. So I'm going to minimize this, and we'll take a look at what happened over here during our application deployment. So I'm having an error, and the first thing that you could do when you're having an issue like this, when you're trying to deploy a new app, is you could actually hover over the error word and the little X symbol here next to the status, and you can get some more information about why this error is happening. So I see here that there's a 401 unauthorized, so something is not authenticated to pull this image down. We have to figure out what's going on here and fix that, right? So we'll go ahead and do that right now. But we're going to take a closer look on the app host itself, just to learn how to dig a little bit deeper into the actual Kubernetes environment, to get more information, do a little bit more troubleshooting, get some more robust logging. So first of all, there's this idea of namespaces. If you are not familiar with Kubernetes, so we say kubectl, which is the command line interface tool for Kubernetes, interacting with the Kubernetes API here, and then we have get namespace, so these are options afterwards. And I have several namespaces here. As you can see, I have default, kube system, kube public, kube node lease. You can kind of assume, that these are right out of the box, right? These are like default namespaces that kind of always exist on a Kubernetes platform. And then we have this generated hash looking namespace over here. So obviously this is probably something custom that the app host was using to deploy apps to, right? So our offending pod might be living inside of here, most likely. But I'm just showing you this because if you have a couple of these namespaces, it might be kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. So if you notice, if I want to look at all the pods where I'm at right now, I could say kubectl get pods. I'm not going to get anything because I'm in the default namespace. Now I could switch my namespace around. I could change to another namespace, but again, if you have a bunch of namespaces, you might need to rotate through all of them to be able to find the right one with the offending pod in there, or you could use the -A option, which basically says all namespaces. So if I say kubectl get pods -A, we'll get all the namespaces, right? So you can see kube system in here, and then we have a few other namespaces like this randomly generated hash one, right? And we could see the last one here is having error image pull. So this is obviously, in our case, the offending pod, because this is the only application on the system, right? So now from this point forward, I can do one of two things. I can troubleshoot by getting additional logs out of a pod by using the kubectl logs command, or I could use kubectl describe. Now, just to tell you the difference between the two and when you should use one or the other, logs would be more for the application's running and you have a playbook run and a function fires off, but you're not getting back the result that you're supposed to be getting back, or maybe it's like giving you an error message somewhere else on the system or something like that. You know, the actual application itself inside of the pod is having an issue. That's when you would use logs, because then you could see the logs of the actual app running inside the container. In this case, we're having an issue just deploying the pod itself, and we're getting an image registry pull issue. So this is not going to be in the actual logs because there's nothing actually running here. What's going on is Kubernetes is having an issue, so we'll go ahead and use the describe. Now, describe, kubectl describe, will show us a description of the whole configuration of the pod, and then at the end there's an events area, and that's where you're gonna see all the Kubernetes event messages, and that's what we're looking for here. So you could say kubectl describe. In this case, we have to say what kind of resource we want to see. So you can say pod space and then the pod name, or pod slash and then the pod name. I like to do slash. And then we see that there's a column for names, column for namespace, a few other columns over here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the name of the pod. And then I need to do dash lowercase n because I need to specify which namespace this pod is living in when I'm making this request to the API server. So we'll copy and paste that in there, and we'll run this kubectl describe pod command and take a look. So we see here at the bottom, just as I mentioned before, that there's this events area, and we can see exactly what's been going on since the scheduling of this actual pod itself. We could see where it was assigned, the image name that it's looking for, and so on and so forth. And we also can see that we have that same error message over here about being unauthorized to pull that image. So what can I do about fixing this? So this kind of error is has nothing to do with the location of an image or anything like that. This is just saying, you know, I can't access this image registry. I need to be authorized in some way. I need authentication. So on the AppHost, how you add authentication is manage AppHost registry. So we're basically saying manage AppHost registry, and the registry is equal to, and we could see key.io, and then we can go ahead and put in user equals. So when you put in -- user equals, it's going to ask you for a username here, and when I hit enter, it will prompt me for a password as well, which is the most secure way to get your password up in here. And this will give the all the authentication details that it needs to be able to pull images using this account from this registry. Now, I am going to just add a / imagery to this because it's going to be on my account. So we'll just wait for this. Okay, so now I've been prompted for the password, so I'm going to go ahead and put my password in. Okay, so now it's been successfully configured, and let's go ahead and just restart this whole thing. Now, the next thing that I'm going to go over here is just a little bit of the anatomy of what's going on. So here in this central area here, this blue shape has this is representing the actual AppHost itself, and then the source system box over here is just, you know, our IBM security QRadar SOAR, and then the remote image registry in our case is key.io, right? And then this is us down here, the app admin, that's me. So we have this registry config that we've just changed around on the actual AppHost itself, and we can specify the actual registry address, and this is something that is just for all apps that can be deployed on this one particular AppHost, right? So I just changed the registry config to point to key.io/Andrew Campagna, and then I gave it authentication, and now that is exactly what the pre-pending images image URLs will be using when they try to pull for app deployment. And by that, I'm going to pull this image over here. By that, I mean that in this blue area is your actual configured registry on the AppHost itself. And then this last part here is actually a part of the app package. So this is specified inside that zip file when you deploy an application. So in this case, it would be key.io/Andrew Campagna, and then the rest of this I'm expecting to come out of the actual app package itself. So that's how the image registry name is built, and this is important to know because, you know, you could have some mix-ups and mishaps, and maybe if you have a private registry or something like that, you want to make sure that this is correct. So let's go ahead and go back and take a look at Lab App 1 and see what's going on. So I'm hovering over the error here, and I see that it's saying not found. So this does not exist. Key.io/Andrew Campagna SOAR TXC Lab App 1 with the version tag 1.0.0, right? So let's go ahead and look at my repository here, and I have two repositories. I have a SOAR TXC broken and a SOAR TXC. This is the one that it's looking for, right? So we'll open this up and we'll look at the tags, and there's nothing in here. But I see that in the broken one, I purposefully put the actual app with a version tag that's much different than what it's looking for. So what do we do in this case? We can move this image around, you know, doing different things. We could change the image name, so on and so forth, to try and get it to match, or we could use something called Scopio. So Scopio is a useful tool to move images around from either a local destination to another local destination, local to remote, remote to remote. You could push images however you want, wherever you want. So the nice thing about Scopio 2 is there's options for like source credentials, destination credentials, so on and so forth. In our case, I'm authenticated through Docker ready to this registry, so all I need to do is just pass it the actual command itself. So I'm going to go ahead and say Scopio copy, and it's going to be Docker / because that's the path that I'm using here. Key.io/Andrew Campagna SOAR TXC broken, and then I believe it is TXC _lab app 1 v1. So this is the actual image itself, and then I'm going to put in where I want it to move to. So I'm going to say Docker / and we could actually just copy and paste out where we want to see it. So if I try and look for that offending pod again, I could see here that I can go ahead and just kind of do a quick describe. So kubectl get pods -a. We'll go ahead and copy this. Kubectl describe pod and we'll go ahead and copy this, and we'll put /, right? So this is going to move this image from this registry to the other registry address. So let's go ahead and use Scopio copy to do that. Obviously, I've tested this out and ran this through this issue before to make sure that it works. But if we go back into our key.io image registry and I look at the tags, I see that that image actually does exist now with the correct tags and everything. So now what do we do on the AppHost now that this actually does exist? We'll just go ahead and restart. And we'll wait for it to restart. And now our app is ready for use. So this is how we fix some basic image registry issues on the AppHost. Thanks for watching, and there will be more troubleshooting videos to come.